So the Mario Bros. Universe is kind of crazy these days. It started out as a super simple arcade game, and then a very simple platformer, and then Super Mario Bros. 3 imagined that maybe all of this was just a play, and all the characters had their own lives outside of the platforming games. Then, next thing you know, you've got Mario and Bowser on the same baseball team, they're playing golf and tennis together, Mario's gang is teaming up against Sonic, and of course, we've got the Mario Party games. Mario Party games, if you're not familiar, are board game style minigame collections featuring pretty much the entire cast of Mario characters. At this point, you can pretty much play as anyone you want. I mean, Goomba's in it, and he doesn't even have arms to roll the dice. Anyways, the concept of a Mario Party always really intrigued me. Like, you're telling me that Mario is shipping all of his friends to these crazy locations, hosting these insane mini-games, with what money? Like, these are massive parties, and they're not just playing board games, they are in the board game. And for all these parties, they gotta rent out these crazy spaces, they've got all these elaborate props. Who's paying for all this? You're telling me that Mario is so wealthy from his mainline games that he can just host these crazy parties with all his friends? In this video, we're about to find out just how wealthy Mario would have to be. I played a 10-round game of Mario Party 8, because it's my favorite one, and I made this spreadsheet calculating all the costs associated with hosting this specific Mario Party and all the mini games in it. I spent hours researching the prices of every single location, prop, transportation, everything involved in hosting a real Mario Party. I've divided the costs into 4 different categories to make it a bit easier to calculate. First, we have all the costs associated with the map or the game board. For this run, I chose the board Goomba's Booty Boardwalk because it seemed the easiest to finance, the most feasible. And this section includes everything we interact with on the map and all the decor that goes along with it. Next, we have the minigame costs. So I went through every single minigame that I played in this run and calculated how much it would cost to actually play it in real life. Then we have general items costs, so that's like coins, candies, stars, dice, that kind of thing. And finally, we have the ending costs. So that's everything that you see here in this end game screen at the awards ceremony. Another thing to note before we start is that I am Canadian, so everything is going to be converted into Canadian dollars, and then at the end I'll show it in Canadian dollars and USD. Some other rules I've put in place are that NPCs don't cost any money because they're all Mario's friends, and I feel like they would be fine hanging out with him for a day. And they're all rich as hell. Like, I don't think Donkey Kong minds hanging out with his buddies for free. I also will not be adding shipping costs, so if you want to do that yourself, go right ahead. So before we get into the calculations, place your bets down in the comments of how much you think it would cost to host one Mario Party. So first things first, we needed some kind of island that resembled Goomba's Booty Boardwalk, and I looked and looked, and the closest thing I could find was this island off the coast of Belize called Long Coco Caye. And this was priced at $102,963,375. Of course, I considered renting an island, but we're gonna have to do some kind of like terraforming and actual fundamental changes to the land in order for this Mario Party to work, so I don't think renting is a possibility. Now, if you look closely, there's a volcano behind Goomba's Booty Boardwalk, and it looks a lot smaller than a real volcano, but also I could not finance a real live active volcano. So instead, I found these 2-meter tall volcano props with smoke. With smoke. Mr. Squidward, with smoke. Now, if we look at the end of Goomba's Booty Boardwalk, where the players find the star, Goomba is surrounded by piles and piles of coins, and there are 3 treasure chests in this area as well. Now, the players never actually interact with these coins, so I think it's safe to say that they can be props. So I found these prop coins on Etsy that look pretty similar, and they come in packs of 50, which is great because Mario's gonna need a shit ton of these prop coins, so he's gonna buy $5,440 worth of them. As for the chests, I found these gorgeous Nautical Cove Deluxe handmade wooden treasure chest flat lid leather accents, and I added 3 of them for the price of $102. And I'll also throw in a pirate hat for Goomba. Why not? $10. Now, this next one's kind of tricky because one of the gimmicks of Goomba's Booty Boardwalk is that players can pay these dolphin characters to carry them across the island so that they go a little bit further. So naturally, I sourced some trained dolphins for Mario's party. And let me tell all you filmmakers out there who are thinking maybe they should make the next Air Bud but with dolphins instead of golden retrievers, think again, because trained dolphins are hard to come by. Which is actually a good thing because keeping dolphins in captivity is actually really unethical, and they should be out in the wild, but that's besides the point. Most of the dolphin services I could find were like one-on-one dolphin shows or like playtime with dolphins at random aquariums, and I thought I was out of luck until I found the Dolphin Research Center, which has a weddings and proposal section. So you can have a dolphin carry your ring at a public proposal for only about $225, which I think is pretty good. Or you can have a private dolphin proposal at the location that you want for only 2,180 USD. So yeah, I got 3 of them. I mean, who's to say? I feel like if a dolphin can carry a wedding ring from point A to point B, I feel like he could carry Mario from here to there. Now, another huge purchase was creating the game board itself. Here on Goomba's Booty Boardwalk, there are 58 tiles total. They must come in 4 different colors. One of them has to be able to change colors, and they have to be able to light up when the characters walk over it. I found these floor tiles, which would be perfect, and to make these the accurate size of the Mario Party tiles, I figured you could place 4 of them together to make a bigger square. So we'll need 58 times 4 of these, divide that by 25 because they come in a bundle, and that comes to $57,426. A few extra things we're gonna need for the map are half a shipwreck, which I've seen some people make some DIY ones for like less than $100, so that's easy. We'll need another one of these treasure chests to go inside the shipwreck, and then assuming that Donkey Kong doesn't bring his own, we're gonna need a DK barrel. Okay, now let's get into the mini games. So these are obviously super expensive to finance, and there were 10 of them total in my run, so let's just go through them one at a time. The first mini game that I played was Mario Matrix, which is an interesting one to start off on because it begins with them walking into these portals that put them inside a computer. The closest real-life thing I can compare this to is like VR, I guess, like full haptic suit VR, and I can't believe that technology has come this far, but here we are. Altogether, the 4 haptic suits and 4 VR headsets came out to just under 5K, which is honestly not that bad. I was kind of expecting worse. But you might be thinking, Bull, where are they gonna play this game? I mean, as you may have noticed, it is indoors. And you're so right, we are gonna need to source a warehouse for this minigame, and honestly, for most of the minigames, they actually need to use the warehouse. So I got Mario this boat that he could rent for $881 a day, so that he could take the boat to his warehouse, which he's renting in Belize. And the last thing we need for this minigame is 2 gigantic computers with monitors, as you can see in the background here. So I found these priced at $1,435,837.58. The next game is called Speedy Graffiti, which involves these huge boulders with like engravings of shapes on them, and then Mario and friends have to spray paint in it. That's about it. So 4 cans of spray paint, pretty easy to find at Home Depot. And then for the gigantic rocks, I thought, what better place to look than somewhere that sells tombstones for like a graveyard. So I found this website that sells all these beautiful headstones and memorials, but all we needed was the standard rectangle shape, and we needed it as big as possible. The absolute largest size that they had came out to about $4,000 with engraving included.
Mr. Squidward with
engraving included. And in the game that I played, they used up a whopping 32 of these rocks. So that's gonna come out to about $128,000. Next, we have the minigame Crank to Rank, which is where all the players stand in front of Peach's castle and they jork it as fast as they can, and whoever's flag reaches the top of the flagpole wins. Okay, so that's easy. 4 flagpoles. Done. Alright, so next minigame is... Wait. They stand in front of Peach's Fuck! So the nearest Peach's castle to Belize is in Orlando, Florida, at Universal's Epic Universe. Why is it called like that? I don't know. So by renting a private plane to Orlando, the flight would cost about $27,000, and the tickets into Nintendo Land are $763 for 4 of them. Now, whether they let them set up the 4 flagpoles in front of Peach's castle, that's none of my business. I mean, It's Peach's castle. I don't know why they're even charging her admission. The next minigame is called Booting Gallery, which takes place in Luigi's mansion, and they shoot these like hologram boos with laser guns or whatever. The closest mansion I could find to Long Coco Calle, which kind of resembled Luigi's mansion, was priced at $323 a day. And if we assume they still have the boat we rented earlier, then that's great. We'll just throw in 50 bucks for the cab ride there. And then we'll also need to throw in 2 of these projectors and this 4-pack of laser guns. Next we have Bombs Away. And in this game, they drop bombs in a huge peggle board. And you hope that it lands on your friend so that they get exploded. Okay, so let's see. How much does a bomb cost? In this game, I replaced the literal explosives with water balloons. So for the huge peggle board, I really couldn't find anything online, so I assumed you could just buy this huge piece of plywood from Home Depot, hammer in some nails, and there you go, peggle board. Now we're good to go. Wait, I don't know if you noticed, but there's a giant crane in the back. So now we have Aim of the Game, which involves these huge playing cards with different numbers on them falling from the sky, and they shoot at them and get the points that they shot at. You can get 100 big white rectangles for about 275 bucks, so we're gonna do that. I threw in a Sharpie and this 2-pack of Nerf guns, and then they can just reuse the warehouse. Call it a day. Okay, the next game is called Power Trip, and this one was a little bit more difficult to replicate because you need this entire complicated metal structure. And also, I don't know if you know this, but hovercrafts don't exist yet, so I got a helicopter instead. For the metal structure, I figured about 100 of these metal panels and 300 of these metal rods could work nicely to construct it, and they could do all that in the warehouse, so. And as you can see here, when the players fall off the metal structure, they immediately get electrocuted. So I got this electric horse fence to put under the metal structure. Bumper balloons is next, and this basically just involves 4 go-karts and a few balloons. We can reuse the water balloons from earlier, saving big time there. And as for the go-karts, you can rent a golf cart for a day for 65 USD at Belize Island Adventure. And of course, we're gonna need 4 traffic cones, easy, 40 bucks. Then we played the game Thrash and Crash, which is where the helicopter is going to come in handy again. One player is on a hovercraft chasing the other 3 players who are on skateboards down this long alleyway. And on the alleyway, there are a bunch of like traps. There's bullet bills, oil canisters, there's big wooden spools, there's womps. So I replaced the bullet bills with t-shirt cannons. I was able to source the wooden spools and the big barrels. I figured for the womps we could reuse some of the tombstones from earlier. So all this came out to about $6,855 for the props and traps alone. And then I got these 3 gorgeous Zoo York skateboards. Now our last minigame is called Crops and Robbers. And in this game, there are 2 teams of 2, and each team has one person who's got a mallet and is whacking the moles, and the other person is picking the carrots, and whoever clears their garden first wins. So I figured they probably could just dig up some holes somewhere on the island, and Monty Mole's just probably happy to be invited. But we do need to source some tractors, because as you may have noticed, they come riding in on tractors and wagons at the start of the minigame, so that came out to 1,150 bucks. I got these 2 mallets for 20 bucks, and then as for the carrots, we needed 10 of them. At Food Basics, they're selling them for like 87 cents a carrot. Okay, so now we can move on to... So let's start with the dice. For this game, we need 4 giant blue D10s, 3 giant yellow D10s for the thrice candy, 2 giant red D10s for the twice candy. And these dice need to be as big as possible, and I found someone on Etsy who actually makes colorful giant D10s by chance, so I was able to get all of these dice for about 800 bucks. Okay, now let's talk candies. So candies in Mario Party 8 can do all sorts of things. They can turn the character into a spring, into a ball that like rolls over other players. You can turn it into like a little bat with little wings. And the closest thing that I could maybe compare this to in real life is mass amounts of group psychedelics. So, and we all know Mario and friends love mushrooms, so let's just say they spent 500 bucks on candies and call it a day. There were also 2 dartboards that came up in my run, so can't forget those. And now we have the coin problem. I'm willing to assume that the coins that are used in Mario Party are actual real gold coins, and 1 gold coin at the moment is going for about 5,199 Canadian dollars. I don't think it would be possible in a 10-round game for the players to use more than 400 coins, so I'm gonna use that as my coin cap. So 400 pure gold coins is gonna cost gang just over $2 million in Mario coin. Now when we're counting stars as well, in most Mario Party games, stars cost on average like 20 Mario coins. So with that conversion rate of stars to coins, we're adding another $1 million worth of Mario star in the Mario Party. So that's everything in the game itself. Now let's look at the endgame awards ceremony costs. So the ending takes place in front of this crazy, colorful castle, and the closest thing I could find to this was this huge inflatable bouncy house, so let's just say they did in front of this thing. We have this beautiful red carpet worth about 600 bucks, 3 Jumbotrons priced at $92,000, and yes, I did think about renting these, obviously, but every website that I could find that rented out Jumbotrons wanted me to call in and ask for a quote. I'm sorry, I'm not about to be like, hi, yeah, I'm hosting a Mario Party off the coast of Belize. I was wondering if... Hello? So, okay, Mario bought these screens. And finally, we need a throne for the winner, which was me, by the way, not to flex, but yes, I did win. And the best I could find, was this website called Throne Kingdom. And this is their most expensive product. It's called the King Kong 88. So yeah, we're buying that for 2,100 bucks. And let's not forget, we also need confetti cannons. I found this one for 400 bucks. Okay, that's everything. That is everything you would need to host this exact Mario Party. And the total comes out to, drumroll please, $108,157,132.80. And that's without paying taxes, so if we bought all this stuff in Ontario, we'd be paying the 13% HST, which Mario should do because rich people aren't exempt from taxes. And so with that, that comes out to $122,270,560.10. That's how much Mario spent on this Mario Party. Now this video was all fun and hypothetical, but let's remember that there actually are people in the real world that have this kind of money. There are people with actually hundreds and hundreds of times this amount of money. So just for fun, let's take our $122 million and see what else we could do instead of hosting a Mario Party. According to UNICEF, $30 can provide food for 21 children in need. That means that Mario, or someone with Mario's wealth, could feed 87 million children with that money. That is twice the entire population of Canada. Alternatively, in 2024, Conservancy Canada spent $30 million to conserve 30,000 hectares of land that were natural habitats surrounding national parks. Someone with $100 million could conserve 3 times that amount of land. That is 15 times the size of Manhattan. Thank you for watching. All this to say, Mario, make sure you pay your taxes.